This is a Hot Pie Media original.
This episode of the Inhumane podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. So, is there anything that is preventing you from achieving your goals? Anything at all? Is there a reason that you seem like you're in Stuckville and you just can't move forward? Well, BetterHelp is here to assess your needs and really match you with your own licensed professional therapist. I love that you're able to chat with them within 48 hours, and it's not a crisis line. It's not for self-help. It really is just professional therapy. And you can do this securely online. The services are available no matter your time zone. And you can log into your account anytime and send your message to your therapist. It's like having them on speed dial. You can even schedule a weekly video or phone session, and you never have to sit and wait in a lobby. BetterHelp is really committed to, facilitating those great therapeutic matches, and they make it super easy and free to change therapists if you need to do so. I know with a lot of the service providers of anti-human trafficking organizations and people like you who are listening to this could have some vicarious trauma, and the therapists they see don't normally allow them to move back and forth. And so here you're able to change therapists if you need to do so, so that you find a better fit. Now, BetterHelp really wants you to start living a happier life today. So please visit their website, betterhelp.com. And because they're doing such a great job, you can join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their own mental health and with the help of an experienced professional. And so we have an actual special offer for you today for all of the Inhumane podcast listeners. You get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/inhumane. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Inhumane podcast. As usual, I'm excited about the guests that we have on today. I have known Lisa Michelle for a few years now, and I have worked with her organization. She is a fierce advocate to prevent and eradicate and human trafficking and restore the victims and survivors of sexual abuse, sexual assault, and human trafficking. And the wealth of knowledge that she has is going to blow your mind. And the work that she has done with these individuals is really like an opportunity for all of you listeners to say, oh my gosh, I can do this too. Like, I can stop human trafficking. I can touch somebody else who is in that life right now and prevent them from continuing and changing the trajectory of their life. So I'm so excited for you to listen to her, listen all the way through, hear the ending where you can find her, because this is someone, if you live out of the state of Texas, you're going to want to support her organization. If you live out of, the nation, you're going to want to duplicate what she's doing. The work is so vital, so important, and you're going to be surprised at where she's doing some of this work and how she's doing it. So let's listen in on my conversation with Lisa Michelle. Okay, so Miss Lisa, I can't tell you how excited I am to have you on the show. I know we have been coordinating for quite some time, but busy gal. We definitely know, and I can't tell you. I'm so thrilled for our audience to hear all the work that you have been doing for quite some time, and the inspiration that you've been to many, including myself. And gosh, I was actually trying to calculate. I'm like, I think it was like 6 years ago where we met at the Capitol here in Austin, Texas. Maybe 5, but it's been a minute. And same thing. And just like clockwork, I was like, I love your hair. And then lo and behold, we're going to the same session. And it was like, oh, this lady, we just got to connect. And it's gone from there. So very excited to have you. Can't tell you I'm going to try to hold in my excitement if I can a little bit, so that I can actually articulate the words.
You're like, I need to focus.
Yeah, I need to focus. And I didn't get to go to your gala this year either. So that was another opportunity. I was like, man, I missed her this year.
Yeah, we missed you.
Yeah.
We missed you. We love your support, and we're so thankful for you. Thank you for all these years of support and investing in us. It's been beautiful.
You know what? We're going to get more. Our listeners, they're about to support you as well. It is definitely my pleasure, and I just love it. So we're going to jump right in, if you don't mind, because I know our listeners are eager to hear all about you. And so I've mentioned No Strings Attached before, here and there, definitely in deep conversation with individuals. And so it is a program within Untethered Ministries, which the Untethered Ministries is kind of a new over-encompassing right now, opposed to just being NSA girls before. So please tell us, what Untethered Ministries is and the role that NSA plays within that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Untethered Ministries is bringing resources to women and at-risk youth that have been sexually abused, exploited, or trafficked. And within Untethered Ministries, we have the NSA Girls program, No Strings Attached. That program is providing vast resources for the women and children that we are working with. So what that looks like is one-on-one survivor-led advocacy. We do crisis management. We have outreach and intervention where we go out into strip clubs and into modern day brothels, which are illicit massage businesses, which I know you're very familiar with. And we help the women, first of all, just know that they have support, that they have a community that wants to embrace them and see them identify with who they were really meant to be. And we feel as an organization that they're stuck and trapped in this lifestyle and have been lured and pulled in and tricked into it. And they've lost their identity. They've lost who they really are. So one of the giftings that I've been given is to help women really empower them to know who they are and how to articulate and share their story, and to go from being sexually abused, exploited, or trafficked into their full identity discovery and living out their full purpose in life. We've seen women do that within months, and then some of them, it takes years. For me personally, I'm in my 50s, and I don't mind saying that. It's like, and it took me years. I didn't self-identify with my story and everything that happened to me until my 40s. And then I only have been sharing my story for 8 years now. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been incredible. That first time that I shared it, I thought for sure I was going to die that day. I was so full of toxic shame and just so frightened to share my truth with people. And the more I do it, the more empowering it becomes. It's just incredible to watch women and children say, wait, that happened to me. Right. Okay, wait, I need to articulate this and figure this out. And that's what we do.
Oh, I love that. And, I think that's the one thing that your mission, right, is you're like sexual abuse, sexual assaulted, exploited, and trafficked. Because we know, right, when it comes to human trafficking, it's such a complex, dynamic issue and very hard to identify in the court of law as well when we're trying to persecute individuals, right? And so when you see these three things, sexual assault, exploitation, and human trafficking, can you explain to our audience maybe what those three have in common, and then maybe how vast differently they actually are?
Well, they all have in common that they break down a woman's self-esteem and self-worth. I mean, that is the biggest thing, is that you're brought down to nothing. And you're being controlled by the abuse. You're being controlled by the trafficker. So that's the one thing that they all have in common. And that, what's the word? Just taking away everything that you thought that you were, and you just thinking that you're a piece of trash. I remember as a little girl thinking, I know dogs that are treated better than me. I mean, at least they get fed and they have shelter and they have, so, and I had seen it before, as well with the girls that we serve as well. I mean, they're treated, it's inhumane what's happening, it just really is. And it's so disheartening to see. What was the second question that you asked?
Just maybe how different they are, right? Because I think there's a lot of individuals. We've been talking about sexual assault for so long, right? And still, people still don't get it. And people still don't see it when there's like someone of power and someone that doesn't have power, right?
Yeah.
So, but how different are they in the work that you're in? Because I think when they see the similarities, then I feel that that's how we can bring our audience in about human trafficking a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So how different?
Yeah. Well, with human trafficking and with sex trafficking, the trauma bond is the biggest hurdle to get over. When you have somebody that comes along and says they're your boyfriend with the Romeo pimp, and they bond with you on a level that you've probably never experienced in your life. They're masters at having that trauma bond with you. And once they get you to fall in love with them, you don't even really see anymore the reality that's around you. So I think that's the biggest difference, is that trauma bond that keeps the victim in that victim role, and they don't self-identify. They don't understand what's happening to them. And you can tell them point blank, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And we've done it, before in stings that we've been in with law enforcement. You gently start to coach and share. But if you just go, this is what's happening to you, and they're going to be like, get away from me. You're trying to ruin my relationship with my boyfriend. And they don't believe you. But I love how just those little teeny nuggets in those situations of sharing can help the victim self-identify. And then those words are like little seeds or little containers. And every time you drop some of those into the mind of somebody who is a victim and sees no way out, they keep coming back up and they're going, wait, that's what's happening to me. So awareness is key, as you know. I mean, I had a girl call our hotline recently. It was so exciting. And she saw a colleague of mine on TikTok. And she's in the middle of a major trafficking situation here in Texas.
Okay.
And because my friend was sharing about trauma bonds, she's like, wait, that's happening to me. She kept sharing it over and over. And the more she would learn, and then it would happen to her. And she's like, when it was happening to her before she had knowledge, she didn't know. Right. But once she had the knowledge, she felt empowered. And she thought, well, maybe I am in a situation.
Yeah. Oh. Again, there is a beauty of technology, right? And then on the flip side, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper. Like you mentioned, the Romeo pimp, and our audience has definitely heard about the Romeo pimp. But there's such a quick correlation between younger individuals, right? And especially if they are online and someone becomes their BFF, right? And they're only 12 years old or 13 years old. It's the same concept that they have this bond now with this individual. So when an adult comes in and says, well, that's not your friend because they're doing all these things, it's literally the same concept, maybe just no romance involved. And so this is what we're trying to teach our parents of younger individuals, is that trauma bonding is still there, because they see one vulnerability, which 12-year-olds have a gajillion vulnerabilities because they're 12, Right. And so it's the same concept. Like I said, you're just maybe taking out that intimacy part.
Yes.
But so vital and so detrimental, because as you mentioned, this young woman, she was able to identify when she was seeing, she was kept hearing it and pieces were speaking to her. I don't know how old she was or is, but her compared to a 12-year-old, so in her 20s compared to a 12-year-old, that's going to be vastly different and maybe a lot more difficult to penetrate and break through that young person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. It's so true. I mean, awareness before, at age 10 and 8, I mean, they say the average age of viewing pornography is age 8.
Yeah.
So it's letting our children know way ahead of time now, things that, I didn't have to back in the day, it was just getting started when my children were born, and it wasn't something that we've ever been taught as parents.
That's right.
I'd like to make one more comment about that as well.
Please.
We have a campaign called 7 Times. And what we've experienced as an organization is that it takes up to 7 times. And we've seen it even take longer to leave that trauma bond, to leave that trafficker. And we have plenty of girls that we work with right now that have left and then come back, left and come back. And they always know that they're a safe landing, that we're a safe landing spot for them. So, but it's very difficult. And I myself being involved in domestic violence, which I think trafficking is domestic violence on steroids.
Yeah.
I myself being in a domestic violence situation and having a boyfriend that I had no idea that I was experiencing all of these things. It took me years. I lived with him for 4 years. I didn't know what was happening to me. I grew up in violence. I grew up in severe sexual abuse and exploitation as a little girl. So I was already preconditioned to not knowing that my worth, or knowing that this isn't normal for your boyfriend to hit you. This isn't normal for your boyfriend to ask you to do things that you're uncomfortable doing. Yeah. So all of those factors were in there, and it took me a really long time to figure out. And unfortunately, that relationship ended with him going to jail because he tried to kill me. So, and that's usually the steps of abuse. That's the last sign, is they want to silence you and they want you to be gone and to be done. So, it's just so important that we know that. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that piece, because, like I said, our audience needs to see the association with domestic violence, because it's there and it's something that has been part of our world for a long time. And so understanding how exploitation falls in that piece as well. Cause like you mentioned, doing things for that boyfriend or that girl where it doesn't make you feel comfortable, and they're exploiting you to do those things. And then the domestic violence on steroids, because I'm forcing you to do all of this, and force, fraud, and coercion so happens more often with our loved ones than they do with a complete stranger, right? Because why would I do this for a complete stranger? Unless, of course, they're threatening my life, right? With a gun to my head. Totally get that. But what's so hidden is that force, fraud, and coercion that's happening from a loved one, because you can't fathom them do that to you.
Exactly. And so familial trafficking, which is what you're talking about, is so common in San Antonio. I think that that's probably one of the bigger forms of trafficking that's happening in our city alone, just because of the cases that we get from law enforcement. And it's usually gang related. They build that family structure and everything, and just condition the girls to thinking this is just life. This is the way we live. This is how we do it. And, I worked in the juvenile correctional facility for 2 years with 13, 14, and 15-year-olds that were all being trafficked by family members. I had 22 girls that I worked with during my time there. And the more I came in every Wednesday, and it was an incredible support group for the girls, and they had never met anybody like me. Or the more I shared my stories and how much we had in common, they were shocked to see who the woman I am today. And I had, my life circumstances absolutely gave me no platform whatsoever to be the woman I am today. I had to fight really, really hard to be her. And that's my passion today, is to see young girls like that, to be able to self-identify early and to say, this is what's happening to you. Let's fix this. You have so much potential in you, and let's see you reach your real destiny here,
I can't imagine, right? At 13 years old, hearing that from you, and where these girls are today, because they weren't identifying as that, right? Because this becomes, and especially me being a girl raised, right, born and raised in San Antonio myself, that's very cultural as well, right? And so it's hard to break that kind of culture. And we talk about that in the Latino community, as well as if there is that familial trafficking or even sexual abuse, with the minor, let's say specifically, it's it's shunned and it's quiet, and you need to be quiet about it. And we're not going to talk about it on either side. And then, as you know, usually the victim and their parents or siblings are then shunned. And yet the predator is still within the family, because how dare you accuse them? And children are normally, within our culture, is
Right.
you are to be quiet unless spoken to. So you probably just made all this up. And as you and I know, being trauma practitioners ourselves, children don't do that. They're telling you. Most don't say anything. So when they do, they're telling you that something's happening. So this breaking these whole cultural barriers is so challenging. But we have to. And I think more parents are starting to wake up. Like, we're kind of going back on that trend, like in the 80s when it was, when they started talking about sexual molestation, if you remember. And now we're going back like, yeah, I'm not letting my kids stay the night anywhere. Like, I wasn't allowed to stay the night anywhere. My father took that, we're not doing any of that business. And now you're starting to see a little small trend of parents going back to, my kids are only staying here at this house, not with family members, not with friends, just here. At least then I know, right, who's in their room at night, which is nobody. So, you know what I mean? And I don't blame them. That's actually the easiest thing, right, to do. So I want to go back and talk about one of the things that y'all do with NSA girls, and that is going into, right, the strip clubs and the modern day brothels. Because whenever I share that, right, you got two ends of the spectrum. You have people that are like, why a strip club? There's definitely no exploitation or trafficking because they chose to be there. And of course, my response is always, I know every 5-year-old little girl says, I want to grow up to be a stripper and work in a brothel, right? So breaking down that mindset in itself. But tell us what you do there, because it's so fascinating how y'all have built this community to go in there. And the stories I've heard from you, even talking to the DJs and the managers and the people walking in, like, just enlighten us on what's happening when you do that.
Yeah. Well, 70% of women that are being trafficked are being exploited out of the SOBs, the sexually oriented businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the strip clubs and the illicit massage businesses. So we are finding women that are in that. That are not in there on their own accord, that do have somebody, a third party, that's taking their money and controlling what they do. But yeah, it was about, we're going to be celebrating our 10th year I think it's this August. I know, it's crazy. I can't believe I've been here in Texas for 10 years. When I first got here, God had already downloaded to me to start this ministry, and I was really excited about it. Didn't know anybody here. And I just got 2 women that heard what I wanted to do and a pastor, and they just said, what can we do to support you? And off we went, and we went into our first strip club. And I'll never forget that first time going there. We asked for the manager, and the manager came out, and he was this big, huge dude that was, like bouncer type of guy, and he wouldn't have anything to do with us. He just thought we were so foreign and like, what are you girls doing here?
Right.
And I said, well, we have gifts for the girls. And every time I would say, we'd just love to go in and visit with them. And he would say no. He said no to me 3 times. And I don't know what happened. Something happened during those 3 times where he was like this, just as mad as could be and his ornery as could be, to where he just relaxed his arms. And he said, you know what harm is it going to do? I guess the girls could use a gift and a little bit of encouragement tonight. Go ahead. Go pass out gifts and cupcakes to the girls. So we went into our first club, and we've almost been here 10 years now. The clubs, believe it or not, the owners and the managers look at us as chaplains over their establishments. And the reason for that being is because we have so much trust and so good of a relationship. They know we are there for the right reasons. They have seen countless women's lives changed. They've seen, we'll be on their speed dial. Lisa, we have a woman in here that is ODing on heroin. We need help for her right now. Lisa, we have a mom and her little girl that have nowhere to go, and we need some form of, place for them to live. They will call us. We'll be that first one. We had one girl that was shot and killed. Unfortunately, a friend of ours, and we were the first people that they called. They immediately called us and said, can you do a candlelight vigil? Can you head up this? Can you do that? I've done funerals. I mean, it's literally been a gift to be able to invest in this community. I have so many girlfriends that are from the industry that have transitioned out, that are still working there. I genuinely love these women, and I love being a part of their lives and helping them and seeing them do what they do. We have a team of 12 people. So we have a prayer team, and then we have an outreach team that goes into the clubs, and we literally just pass out gifts to the girls that are working, let them know of our resources and how we'd love to connect with them. If something, just organically happens where we end up, like, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you this. I'll tell you this beautiful story. So we came into the club recently, and this girl kind of didn't want anything to do with us. She's just watching us give out the gifts and just kind of a little bit unsure of who we were. And so I walked over to her and I just said, I put the gift in front of her and I said, I have a gift for you. And she looked at me and she's like, okay, what do I owe you? Like, do you want something from me? She was so unsure. And I said, no, it's from NSA girls. This is who we are. This is what we do. And I explained it, and tears started to fall down her face. And she said, what did you say your name was? And I said, No Strings Attached, the NSA girls. And she goes, you're not going to believe this. She goes, a customer came in last night and paid me to sit with him so he could tell me about your ministry. And she goes, I sat for an hour. He pulled up your videos on his phone. He showed me who you guys are. And he said, you don't belong here. Reach out to this organization. They can help you transition out. And she goes, and then you walk in the door the very next night and you're handing me a gift right now. I have chills right now because it was one of those moments that just for her, God was pursuing her. God did not let her go like the night before. And I go, what did that guy look like?
They're still trying to figure out who that was.
I'm like, can I call him? Right. Still have no idea who this phantom guy is.
Amazing.
Unbelievable that somebody's out there doing that too. And that I just love that things like that. I mean, we just have the most crazy stories. Like you said, I could go on and on with them.
I know. I love, and I think that's another reason why you're one of my favorite organizations. And I talk about that on the national level, the international level, and just trying to send y'all so much support, because what you're doing, yes, there's other organizations who go into strip clubs, but y'all's approach, each time I hear it, either from a royal, right? And audience, the royals are the ladies that hang up their shoes and they graduate, if you will, and they're ready. They're ready to be done with this life. And I've heard stories from them and your ladies on your team. And it is so non-invasive. You guys literally, or you ladies, go in there with literally no agenda, no intention to lure you into, if you will, to start talking about God or Jesus or anything along those lines, because we know there's a connotation with that as well. And it's there, it's present. You know what I mean? Y'all have conviction and it's there, but that's not your first and only approach. Your first approach is, I'm going to love on you, whether you want to be here or not. And whether you tell me to, go away or you accept a gift, I'm just going to keep coming back and I'm going to keep showing up, because we know in their life, everybody wants something from them. And that's also their mindset, right? Their belief system is, you want something in exchange. What do I have to give up to get something from you? And that gentleman that you talked about, he literally paid an hour just so that you can sit here and let me tell you all about this place and these women that are going to do just that. I don't want anything from you. They don't want anything from you. They just know you have the potential of a better life, and you got to find who that person is. And that's it. And that is what I love about NSA Girls and why I keep supporting, because your approach is so genuine in a world of brokenness. And in a world where, I mean, gosh, you can't even get an influencer these days to, like collaborate with you because there has to be something that they want more. And not all, it's just an example, like even in that kind of space, you know what I mean? Here, you guys don't want anything from them. You just want them to have a better life if they're ready to receive it. And I just can't commend y'all enough. If you don't mind, can you just share one of the DJ stories? because
it keeps
happening.
It's still alive. Yeah. It's still alive right now. I just literally had an experience with this guy. It's crazy. I love him so much. And I have to be careful because it's his story. Truly, it is.
Sure.
It is his story. But I'll keep it generalized so I protect his identity and protect who he is. But, he's worked his entire life inside the strip club as a DJ. And every time we came in, we always bring cookies and beef jerky and different things to the guys and the bouncers and the bartenders and everybody who works in there. Starbucks cards, they all love us, the guys. Yeah. They're just,
feeding me. Feed me.
Yeah. I know, right? And so, every single time though, that I would see him, God would have a special word for him. And I would speak it to him and he couldn't understand me. He just thought, who is this woman? She's coming into this strip club and she keeps saying these crazy things to me that like were so foreign to him. But every single time that I would speak whatever God was sharing with me, his hairs on his arms would just stand straight up. He'd go, look at my hairs. He's like, what is happening to me? And I go, that's called the Holy Spirit. That is called God pursuing you in your life right now. He cares so much for you. And I just don't see that you belong here. I don't think you belong here. And so one day God gave me a very specific prophecy over him about his life. And I told him that you have a priestly anointing on your life. You're actually called to be a pastor. And every single word that came out of my mouth during that moment, it was like everything in the club. There was like, the worst music you can ever think of playing, all kinds of, not good things happening around you. But it's like the world stopped and him and I and one of our other advocates, it's just like this bubble. And you just sit there and you're in this moment. Yeah. And as I'm saying these things to him, tears are pouring out of his face. And he's looking at me, shaking his head. And he's like, wow. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, those were the exact words that my mother would say to me while I was growing up. See those seeds that we plant in our children, they won't return void. They will germinate someday. And God used us in that moment for that. And he said that just, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that my mother used to say those exact words to me. And I said, I believe that you're not supposed to be here. And God will show you how. So anyways, he's been out of the industry for over a year now. Mm-hmm. Does an incredible job making way more money than he used to make in the clubs, out of the darkness into the light. And we had recently, I'll keep this super generic, a beautiful soul that has known us for 4 years that works in the clubs. And she has never wanted anything to do with us. She would kind of say hi, this and that. Recently, we had an incredible encounter with her and that she could not deny. Mm-hmm. And she's actually involved in the cult. And she could not deny that something was happening in that moment. Yeah. So we ended up meeting with her at an establishment, having coffee and talking to her about her life and her destiny and everything. And she said that she wanted to go into this line of business. And I won't say it because it'll give away the two identities. And I said, well, that's interesting because, DJ such and such is doing that right now. That's actually what he's doing. She goes, yeah, I want to get a hold of him, but I don't know how. And I said, oh, we can get a hold of him. And in walks the door to this establishment, that DJ. We hadn't seen him in over a year because he hadn't been in the clubs. And he walks in and he just stood there so shocked. His hair stood up again.
Yeah.
He goes, Lisa, is this one of those another God moments? He's like, what is happening? He goes, I haven't seen you guys in like over a year. And just like that. So, all of this to say that one little seed going in, and you think you're just handing out gifts, but we're not. We're changing people's lives. Like God is literally changing the trajectory of women's lives and men's lives and men in the clubs. I will mention this. I have to be careful with this too. We have men that are customers and that have been customers that no longer are, that have changed because of meeting us in the club and that are now supporting our ministry. Like that's mind blowing to me. I didn't set out for that. I had no idea. None of this was on my radar. As a matter of fact, when I first started this, because I started 15 years ago, I did some of this work in Arizona. The men were my biggest hurdle to get over going in. I didn't know that I was bound up in my heart and that I had hatred towards the men that were in there until I started to meet them and I had conversations and started to realize that they're lonely, that they're broken, that they were sexually abused, that they are hurting so bad. And it's just two hurting people coming together and trying to build community and trying to, all based off of false love, false identity and all of that. The more I met men and talked to them, the more they were so interested in the work we were doing and the more they learned as well. Yeah. So it's beautiful to see them come full circle and me, my heart that was bound towards the men. And now I have incredible love for them as well.
Oh, Lisa, that I can't tell you that is a great segue. First, let me just go back and say, the humanity, right, is coming back into people when they interact with you. Like you're bringing humanity back because so many people believe humanity is just gone, right? Because of their experiences. And so your group, I believe, is bringing that back to them when y'all go and you visit with them and you talk to them, you share with them. And my big thing is, especially in the anti-trafficking movement, we all know that, of course, men are the number one consumers for sure by a landslide. What I'm not a fan with is when we are having these conversations and the hate towards men is so big, not saying that it's not valid like you just mentioned, but where we're keeping them out of the conversation and keeping them out of the movement. And it's just exactly what you said. I don't believe for all cases that it's just, it's men being men where they're just superior and they always think of women being below them and to control kind of thing. One, I don't come from that kind of family. The men in my life, right, with my dad, my brother, my husband, those aren't those kind of men. And then others that I interact with. And they want to support and they never want any harm towards their wife, their sister, their daughters. And there's tons of men like that. And you pinpoint it so well, is that they're broken. They are coming to a place that they believe that they can get some sort of, or a place where they're not lonely, whether it's for 30 minutes or 3 hours or whatever the case may be. And it's two broken people that are coming together to communicate in whatever falseness and whatever facade that they're creating. But at least you're not completely lonely for that short time frame. And right. And so I feel the more we educate men, if they're the number one consumer, they are part of the big solution that we have to bring in more. Like you have an advocate that you don't even know his name. And this man is spending his own money, his own time to go and kind of duplicate what y'all have done. But he's coming from the flip side of a male perspective, which we know that these women and these children have to have that male perspective as well, and not just a female perspective. And so I love that you, and I don't know if that's what it is. Like you said, I needed to heal my heart. And because I don't blame you. I don't blame you. And I don't blame anybody when they've been a victim and they're a survivor. Of course, you're going to have issues towards that individual 100%. But I do believe that if we can heal, then you're like, I can totally invite you in because I never want this to happen to anybody else. And we need both parties, right? We need the females to come in and do exactly what you are doing and what we're doing here. But we also need the males because one, they need to stop buying, right? And if they don't fully understand, they're never going to stop buying.
You know, I love that you said that too. We have 3 men that are on our team that do outreach, and they're security and pray, and they're there for the men if the men want to talk at all as well. And then our last fundraiser in October, it was like half and half. I was literally looked at the audience and went, there are a lot of men, a lot of businessmen, a lot of men of influence in this room. And it's very, very exciting to see men get behind this. And we need the men. And I feel like right now we're in a pivotal moment, especially us as an organization and a ministry, where we want men to join us. We need those voices. We need those strong advocates and the men to stand up and say, this isn't okay. Right. This is not how you treat your daughter or your wife, or, so I am excited to see the men that are stepping up to the plate, that keep reaching out to me, that keep wanting to partner with us. And we need them right now. And I have to tell you, there are good men out there. I've been married for 25 years to one of them.
That's right.
Come on. It's like, that's a miracle coming from my past and not having one relationship that was worth beans. It's like, so there are good men out there, and there really are. And the men that are a part of this, that are at the root of this, usually are dealing with strong addiction to pornography and lust. And they're just so addicted that they need to get their fix on a regular basis. We see that in the illicit massage businesses. The guys are just every 20 minutes showing up. And that's the same men that keep coming back to the facilities. There's regulars that go into those massage parlors. So, it's a hard issue. And I've talked to them. We stop and talk to them before they go in. And we will let them know, did you know this, and that? We tell them what is actually how the facility is usually run, what's going on with the girls, because now we've educated them. That's so right. If they're in the act inside that facility, now they're thinking, oh my gosh, this poor girl has to sleep on this bed tonight after she serviced 20 men. She's not going to get her money. She doesn't have her papers or her identity. And I'm contributing to this. Right. So we've had men that wake up from us talking to them outside of the brothels and, or illicit massage businesses. I've called them brothels for like years. So, so it is a hard issue for sure. And I do want to see more men rise up. And I hope any man that's listening right now, if you don't live in San Antonio, find a place near you that you can start supporting. A business owner, please support ministries and organizations like ours. We need you. We need to collaborate for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for calling on them, because that is, one part of our mission here is the public, and men are the public. And exactly what you said, one of my famous sayings is, what you don't know is what you don't know. But now that you know, right, you are either now a contributor of human trafficking or exploitation, or you're not, because every time you go into one of these establishments and watching porn and watching OnlyFans and anything along those lines, you are literally rolling the dice. It is a 50-50 chance that person is not there at their own right mind and will. And so then what is the difference between you and a trafficker? Because now you know. Right. And it's having those hard conversations. And I do believe like the measure of a man, of like a real man, is they need to hold each other accountable. Right. Like we know as females and as wives, we've been trying to hold men accountable all the time. But there's something different when a man holds another man accountable. And them joining forces with us in that kind of capacity, I just feel like that is raising an army that we will finally really outnumber these predators, because now you're no longer buying and you're coming on this side. And to me, that is the key for eradication across the board, whether it happens in my lifetime, in your lifetime, or in our children's lifetime. I just have that much belief and faith if we get these men on board and talk to them just like how you did, open and honest and genuine, of we just need you. We need you to be a part of this in your capacity, whatever that is, because I'm not a dude, you are. So whatever that looks like for you, right? Now that you know, but our world has just been that these are the oldest professions in the world, and everybody chooses to, to be there. And we know that can't be any more of a bigger lie, right? And that's just truthful. So thank you for sharing that. And I have another question. You talk a lot, and I've heard the Royals, and I've heard you and your ministry talk about personal freedom, and you've mentioned your story. And I love that you put on the show that, hey, this is not my story, so I want to be respectful, and I'll just be very general. And that's something that we've talked so much about on the show is it's not my story to tell. I could be extremely general, but it is the respect out of the person who has this experience or their survivor. And so many as well don't know how to tell their story. And they don't know how to, and whether that starts from like we talked about earlier, they haven't identified yet because people are telling them that this is what they're experiencing, right? So let's talk about personal freedom for a little bit, and why is that so important? How do y'all work with, the Royals? Or the girls that come into your ministry? How do you work with them on finding that personal freedom?
Yeah. Well, I want to tell you that when I was 28 years old, I heard a woman speaking about being sexually abused. As I was listening to her story, I sat there. I started shaking. My hands were sweating. I had never heard anybody speak these words out loud. I came from a family that everything was kept behind closed doors. Nobody speaks about anything. I was so severely abused by my father and by a pedophile that lived across the street from us that I was trained to keep silent. Yeah. So when I heard this woman sharing her story, I quickly realized she was articulating everything that I had been through, but yet I hadn't found a voice for it yet. I didn't understand. I didn't have words for what I had been through. I didn't know what happened to me. So that's why I'm so passionate today about walking these women through their story, is helping them. So we start off first, the very first thing I do when we go on stings, when we meet with a woman after we meet her in the club or her workplace, and anytime we're being referred a woman, is I will share my story. And instantly you can see the walls come down and I become somebody who's relatable. And I have so many facets of, what in human trafficking, sex trafficking that are relatable in my story, that it helps to break down those barriers, and it helps for them to hear, wait, that sounds familiar. Is that what happened to me? And then I tell them, so let's process this. Let's walk through this. So we have trauma-informed counselors that we work with that they can go to regular counseling with. And then we have equine therapy as well with a psychiatrist and then myself. And we can walk them through the healing journey with the equine therapy. And that's been an incredible healing modality. EMDR is something that worked tremendously for me and my brain and my experience. I know it's not the end all, but it is one of the best forms of healing for me, is rewiring my brain and helping to connect those neurons that were disconnected. It's been life-changing for me. So we offer that to the girls as well. So helping them to self-identify, helping them to realize that what happened to them was, domestic violence and sexual abuse and sex trafficking, and helping to put not labels, so to speak, but just helping them to figure out, okay, this is what happened to me, and then dissecting that. And every time we end up having our first meeting with one of the girls, we'll immediately know what to pinpoint and what to focus on to get them into the first steps of their healing journey. But just like with AA or anything else, that first step, it's really hard to trust women that you've never met before that walked into your workplace and that's handing you a gift. And, for them to sit there and to trust us to show up and then to, trust us through that experience and then telling us their story.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the very first step, is saying, well, this is what happened to me and this is where I'm at. And then my question always to them is, okay, where do you want to be? Like, who do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And many of the girls have no answer for that. They say, I'm scared to think like that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't ever put myself in these positions. So we sit down and write out their goals and figure out who they want to be. And then we have so many resources, so many nonprofits and friends and churches and people that just invest. So let's say one of our girls that day, we met with her and we went through this whole process. And I said, what would you do if you weren't working in the club? And she said, I really don't know. So we started to process through that. And finally we found something. And she said, okay, you know what? I've always wanted to be a realtor, but I just thought there's no way, how could I even start in that after being in this lifestyle for so long?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, let's start with real estate school and let's get you through that. So we did that. And then, and we've done that with several girls too. This particular girl went through real estate school. She had a really hard time. She needed a mentor. She needed help throughout the whole process and everything, but she's been a realtor for 4 years. She is selling $1 million homes. Last July, she bought her own home and she is completely set free from the industry and just so amazed that like that one little meeting with us that one night, and I shared my story with her actually in the club that night, which I normally don't do, but I just knew it was one of those moments where I'm like, I need to tell her that I understand what you're going through and I need to let her know. And then we had coffee the next day and that was it. Her whole entire life has changed. So that's kind of what we do with that.
Talk about not just only a success story, but talk about a life completely transformed and 100% sustainable, right? Because you and I've talked about this before. That's what, our organization, our company does is we know when so many of these individuals, they go to residential treatment or they go to counseling, usually that has a time limit, right? And so then they're off on their own. And then we go back to that 7 times, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very true when life happens, which we all know when life happens, it sucks sometimes. And when you're in that valley, all these triggers can come back and it's a lot easier in a sense where your mind is to go back into that life instead of trucking forward, right? And so it's all about giving them those tools where they can sustain themselves because ideally that's what they want. They just don't know how to dream it because they've been in survival mode for so long, right? That's it. Yeah. And everything in the future, there is no future because all of your thoughts are based off of your past experiences and you're just in that loop. You're just playing that loop.
And that's what we do is we break the cycle of abuse. We're breaking the cycle of self-hatred, breaking the cycle of them being stuck in the darkness and bringing them out of that darkness into the light. And it reminds me of myself. I mean, just to be the woman I am today was never on my radar. Trust me. My own husband is a testament to that because he's always like, how did you just do that? Like, he's like, when I'm legislating at the Capitol, he's like, who is that woman? I don't know her. I'm like, it's truly amazing that if you just put one foot in front of another and show up and use what you have and use your story and start to be vocal about it, God can do crazy, amazing things and open doors for you that you never dreamt. I mean, I never dreamt I'd be an author of a book.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I had it in me. And then to see the reviews coming in last week, my mind is blown because, and I know exactly how the girls feel when they're like, I just graduated real estate school. I just got my diploma. I just, and I'm like, I know how you feel. It's just so incredible to become an overcomer from such darkness and abuse,
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. This episode of the Inhumane podcast is brought to you by Canopy.us. Now, I know you've heard me talk a lot about the dangers of online in our world today. So I'm here to tell you about a few tips that can help protect your kids online from porn and sexting. I highly recommend, of course, to use parental controls on all of your family's devices. But the truth is that the average age of exposure to porn is 11 years old, and 1 in 4 kids have received a sext, and 1 in 7 have actually sent one. So that's why Canopy is such an important app to install on your kids' devices. Canopy actually helps prevent the exposure to porn before it happens. Their technology actually filters images and videos in milliseconds. And when Canopy detects a nude or lingerie-esque image, it's saved to your child devices. It will give them the option to delete or send to you for approval. That's like a lot of checks and balances. So you can try Canopy for today by using the code Inhumane and check out for 30 days free and 20% off for life at Canopy.us. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because that's actually, I love, and congratulations on authoring, publishing, and actually launching The Unlikely Warrior. I know we had been anticipating that the first time we were going to get you on the show. And so we were like, ooh, we'll just have a part 2 when it's ready to actually come out. And now it's here and it's out.
Yes.
So tell us, what is it, tell the audience, what is it about, and the inspiration, which I think they can guess, but the inspiration and what you're most proud of about it.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny. I don't have a book sitting in front of me. I forgot. So this is the cover.
I know. I love the sword, by the way. When you showed the first picture of that on social media, I went, whoa, that is powerful.
That's my husband's great-grandfather's sword from World War II. That was really cool. I was like, I need a sword and for my cover. So that was really a neat experience to use that sword as well. I wrote my book because that woman that spoke and told her story of sexual abuse at 28 years old, when I was 28, I look at where I am today. And if she hadn't have spoke up, I wouldn't have self-identified. I wouldn't have gotten into counseling and gone on my healing journey. Yeah. And I wouldn't be the woman I am today. So I have inspired thousands of women every time I speak, everything that I'm doing. And so it was like a running joke, Lisa, where's your book? Where's your book? And I'm like, oh, yeah, about that. And so finally, when the pandemic happened, I'm like, you know what? I actually have some downtime. I think I can make a goal out of this and make something good come out of a really hard season. Sure. I ended up losing my father during the pandemic too, which was really super tough. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to have something good's going to come out of this. So the book is to help women identify with what happened to them. Very important. I go through, my story, and each part of my story, I share different ways of like toxic shame, what it looks like. Could you possibly be experiencing toxic shame in your life right now, and how to, work on some of that? I'm in the middle of building my workbook to go along with the book as well. Amazing. So it can be used in juvenile and the jails and any kind of victim services, because I believe that this is a really great tool for victims and survivors. I had women reach out to me in the last week and a half that have said, I felt like for the very first time that somebody understood me and that somebody knew my experiences. And I've never heard, I felt like I was sitting in the living room with you and that you were sharing these things that happened to me, but I haven't been able to express them. And I felt like I instantly bonded with you because I felt like you understand me. Yeah. You get me. I'm not crazy. These things did happen and they are real. They're true. They do have, so it was just incredible to hear that. Although I know that day for that person is not only a heartbreaking day and a hard day to accept the truth, but also it's a day of freedom. It's a day of saying, because they don't understand, like that day is the catapult of where they're going. That's going to be where they're going. That's the healing journey that has started for them. So it's exciting. So that's why I wrote the book, is to just share and help other women identify.
Oh, and I think for our audience, and I thank you personally for writing that book, because you see that when you work with survivors, self-identifying is so challenging for them. And then maybe they acknowledge it, but to me, and I don't know if it's the same in your experience, to me, toxic shame is the number one, hurdle. It's the number one thing for them to really get over, or to work through, for them to get to that other side. Because they're here and they know it and they're like, yes, I want to do it. But then that shame just keeps popping up and it prevents them from moving forward or jumping over it, or, for that next chapter in their life. And I think a lot of it is because they don't have the words to really articulate and say, okay, yes, that's exactly how I've been feeling. I just didn't know how to say it. I didn't know which words to use, because you're talking about emotions and thoughts of the past and everything that goes along with it, that it's all jumbled up, right? And timelines that are all crazy and just scattered. And so they just can't find it. And so, like you stated, this woman is saying, oh my gosh, it's like you were right there with me. And that's exactly how I felt. And we've shared this many a times, is not all stories, not all individuals who've experienced this obviously have the same story. They're all different, yet there's similarities, right? And so you're able to connect then, and they're able to connect with you, and they're able to connect through you with now this book. And I love, and I can't wait for the workbook to come out, because now what you just did is you just armed an army to go out there and to be able to connect with these individuals using this book and this workbook and every victim service and you and I have talked about this before as well, is we have to find ways to duplicate. And when you just had NSA girls at the time, I was like, Lisa, my company's ready if you want to create a curriculum for it, right? So that it can just spread throughout the nation, throughout the world, right? Because here on this podcast, we have international listeners, and they're always asking, what can I do, as well as how can I duplicate? And that's what we talk about, is duplicate what this person's doing. And you just tweak it to your demographic. You just tweak it to your legislation. You just tweak it to whatever is going on in your space. But do what they're doing, because get
out there and do something.
That's right. Do something, because I hear it and I feel it, and I get so many people. They're just like, what else can we do? And that's why our action items are so tiny, because we want them to, like I said, sustainable. We want it. We want them to be in the fight for the long haul. And, not for the short term. So how can everyone find your book?
You can go to lisamichelle.org, and that will send you to our initiatives, to my book. And you can also go on Amazon and buy it on Amazon, especially international or Kindle purchasers. Okay. So lisamichelle.org. That'll send you to everything of mine. And @HealingTheExploited is my Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, yeah, we'll definitely put that up on ours, because it's, I can't wait to read it myself. It has been a time coming, so I can't congratulate you enough and thank you enough, because if you're already getting these kinds of reviews, and now with all the nonprofits that we interact with and things of that nature, it's like, this is a tool. This is a tool for you to use, and you can use it now. You don't even have to use the workbook. At least get started in just the reading it, right? So I'm so excited to get my hands on it myself. And then, is there anything else you wanted to mention about the book before I ask you this next question?
Just that I've had counselors and I've had safe homes and reach out to me, and they want to start, using the book, like having it there for if they have a sexual assault victim come in or trafficking exploitation. They want to have that as a first resource for a book to give away to their clients and to give to the girls coming into the safe houses and all of that. So it's very exciting to be able to, because I wrote it in a way, and I keep hearing this from the readers as well, that it's not super triggering, because a lot of books from survivors are super triggering, and I've read them. I've had to put them down, come back to it. And thankful for my publisher. She was really good about that, because of course, I had all kinds of great stories to put in there, but she's like, okay, we need to not traumatize your audience. So it was written in such a beautiful way that it's able to help people really just understand and learn how to cope and learn how to understand what they're going through. So
wow, that's just like another, again, I just really feel that God has a hand on you and what you and your group are doing, in the sense of to not be so invasive, right? Because it's just like anything else. If I'm breathing down your throat, how are you actually going to be receptive? Because I don't know what you're going through, right?
Yeah.
And to prevent those triggers, as well as to prevent the triggers from, an audience where they have no experience about exploitation or sexual abuse or human trafficking, but we want them to come and be part of this fight. But they're just like, I can't handle that. That's just too much. So now I just can't. It's just because, right. I'm sure, like, I get asked all the time, how do you sleep at night? I'm like, well, I'm a sissy when it comes to horror movies and scare. Like, I can't watch any of those, like, at all. Yet I can spend time with these women and not cry in front of them. Right. But just give empathy and allow them to share whatever it is that they want to share. And same thing of, I want nothing from you. I want you to have the best life that you can totally have. And whatever you need me for, that's what we'll be there for. And so we always have to pay attention to the audience and the audience we want to get. So now that you said that, we're definitely going to share this with the rest of our nonprofits, because, right, even we know a big piece for me is the foster care kids and the foster care sector. And oh my gosh, what they could probably do with that book. Yeah. Just even on the prevention side, to be honest with you, right? Exactly. So very, very, very eager to get my sticky little hands on that book so that we can start reading. And then we'll have you back for another segment and probably talk about a few pieces, a few chapters in there that I think would be great for our audience. So that's one thing, but it looks like you're also doing some other social enterprise, which that is my favorite, of connecting nonprofit with maybe for-profit with Lily & Co. So please tell us what is going on with Lily & Co. What is this and how can we support that way?
Yeah. What's inspiring is yesterday we had an event for Kendra Scott. Okay. Well, Kendra Scott had the event for us and gave back to us. And I was in that moment yesterday, sitting there with, our whole team and girls that were just everybody in there supporting the organization, everything. And we make jewelry. So that's Lily & Company makes jewelry. I'm also an esthetician, so I have skincare as well. But sitting in that moment inside of Kendra Scott's store and just seeing how much she celebrates others and she's giving back and all that, it was so inspiring to me. And to know how much we sold that day as well really inspired me, because we are doing something with this social enterprise. I mean, I felt like, holy mackerel, where's our store? We need our own store. Like, this is not funny anymore. We're like, it's exciting. Yeah. So the girls, when we meet with them, and then we're actually going to build an advocacy center in San Antonio. Somebody has donated the land to us and we have the funding to build the shell of it, but we're working on the funding to get it completed right now. Once we have that advocacy center, that'll be our centralized place for all of our services. And that'll be a place where we can continue to make our goods, but even on a much bigger scale. So the girls make bracelets and jewelry, and they're constantly making things, and then they get a cut of it as well. So we have a long way to go. with our social enterprise, but we're very excited that we are where we are at and that I never gave up on that, because running a for-profit and a nonprofit is a big job.
Yes, it is, all day long. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But I love the social enterprise because that feeds into the nonprofit, right? And the services that you are continue to grow. And I feel that nonprofits don't have to sell their soul because they're trying to look for money. And I mean, I've been a part of a socialpreneur for a really long time. And I'm like, we can merge the two. And I think ever since the pandemic, I've talked to a lot more individuals who are a lot more open to it. Before, they're like, no, it has to be nonprofit only. Can't merge anything else. It gets sticky. And I'm like, no, it's sticky now. It's sticky now because, and we know, and that's sometimes why the public is hesitant to give money, because they don't see the transparency, right? Or something comes out later, or whatever the case may be. So, and also the public, there's a misconception of, oh, let me only trust the big ones. I'm like, that's where all the money is wasted. You need to go to the little ones.
Honestly, say that a little bit louder for people in the back, because seriously, it is crazy having a survivor-led nonprofit and seeing the millions go to these. I mean, they're great organizations. They're doing great work. Gosh, if even they could give a cut to organizations like ours. Oh my goodness. I mean, they could be changed, because we're boots on the ground.
That's right.
We're doing the hard work that I don't see other organizations doing. They are not blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, they're starting to build those type of programs, but from the beginning, they weren't in those spaces at all, or they're pulling in other organizations to work with them now on that level. But survivor-led organizations need the kind of support that we're seeing the really large organizations get. And it's really exciting too. I've seen some really big influencers that are starting to follow me and to ask questions and be curious and all of that. And they know it's hard to trust somebody that, it's like, I'm survivor led and you don't know me yet. And well, let's get to know each other because we have an incredible reputation and we need people like that for sure.
Yeah. No, that is, one piece of the Inhumane podcast was always, hey, we have to highlight, we have to talk, we have to partner with smaller to mid-sized nonprofits, because we don't need to touch the big ones. We need to touch the little and the mid, because it's that blood, sweat, and tears. And it's your blood, sweat, and tears. It's your mentors. It's your counselors. It's all these people who want to be and are fighting to prevent, eradicate, restore. And there is no roadmap for that.
Right.
There is no roadmap for this. And you're still talking about a fairly new topic, if you will, because we know human that term was not around 10 years ago-ish. Right. And so it's still new, and too many people still don't know about it. They know about domestic violence, like I was saying earlier. They know about sexual abuse, the terminology, and they know how to identify. This is the area that people still can't identify. They can't identify that and can't comprehend the strip club and the, illicit massages. They just can't. So that just tells you how much work we have to do. And I think with Lily and Company, that I love that you are obviously giving a percentage to the survivors who are making it, right? And see, that's
to safe houses that we partner with.
Safe houses? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And I think that's the other thing is we have such a large generation that is all about, oh, I bought this because, it's sustainable. And it's from, a woman in Africa or a tribe or what have you in Peru. And those are wonderful. But we're also doing that here. You can do both, you can, what is the most expensive thing that y'all sell?
Oh my goodness. A good question. I think like $48 for a warrior necklace. Yeah.
So there you go. I can spend $48 over here with Lily and Company, and then I can spend, the other 30 for a tribe that I love in Africa. It's the same thing, but I think also with our just kind of with our culture and our pop culture is you're more of a humanitarian if you do it abroad.
Right.
Than if you do it in your own backyard, you know?
Right.
And I know I get flack for that, but I'm like, guys, we literally could do both. And we should clean up our backyard first, or at least simultaneously. Let's just do it simultaneously.
Well, we're doing it simultaneously. Yeah. So one of our partners is in Tanzania, and they have 48 women that are living in their safe homes. So they make the kimonos that we put in our freedom boxes. So we're doing it globally as well. And I love that. So we're doing it right here in our backyard. Plus we're doing it in Africa as well. So, and you can do that too. You know,
that's what I'm like.
Have to. Yeah.
We don't have to pick one or the other. And with the income that you have that you're spending anyway, you can spread spread the wealth. And to me, that is like if you want to label yourself a humanitarian, I'm like, well, to me, that's both cleaning up the backyard, cleaning up abroad, so that it is a better world altogether, right? Not just certain parts of the world. So I'm so excited about that. I can't even tell you. I just think the social enterprise part not only can be a model and show, survivors that, oh my gosh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I do want to create my own jewelry line. Maybe I do want to go create my own clothing line or whatever. You're modeling something that they hadn't probably seen before. And yet, the skill set, as you know, that people with, lived experience and survivors, oh my gosh, they have an instinct. They have, right? Like you're talking about, they're like almost natural entrepreneurs. They just don't know it yet.
That's right. That's what happened to me. Yeah. The more I got into this and started to really realize where my talents were, the more I started expanding and growing too. We have a meeting tomorrow with 2 girls that have come out of the industry, and they're related. And I pitched the idea to them because I saw some potential in them.
Okay.
And I pitched the idea, why don't we start your own house cleaning business? And you 2 are the CEOs and you run it. And then we'll help you put your plan together. We'll help you get your LLC. We'll help you do, and just get it all set up for them. And then keep micromanaging them and helping and coaching them through the whole process, making sure they're completely successful and they don't fall back, that they know how to manage their finances. So we're starting to do a lot of that as well. And I just love that because we want to see them be totally successful in their entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the thing, you're giving them skills. And I think, like, for example, when I help organizations, right, develop their organization or restructure or what have you, that's one of the things with human capital. So is that you are building this learning and development, if you will, program, but it has to be holistic. You want them to be a great worker, if you will, for your organization, for your company. But what skill sets are you giving them that they can use in their personal life that will transfer over into the work and vice versa, right? Because you can't just take off your hat and be like, oh, I'm gonna be this person while I'm at work. And now I'm going to be this person at home. Hence, that's why you got burnout. And that's why you have people that are unhappy about things, because there is no flow. There is no, I can be me even in the workplace. And so you're giving them these skills that, I mean, they're skills that these large companies are not even doing. They're still trying to segregate, if that makes sense. And here, you guys are helping them with their healing process, but you're also giving them skills that they're able to utilize. And I'm going to go back to that word and give them or phrase a sustainable life.
Yes,
because they need that. And another reason why I support NSA girls, that people are like, is there anyone else? I'm like, there are. I mentioned them, but I just love everything that you guys do. I have one more question for you.
Okay. LilyNCO.net is where you go to find Lily and Company.
Say it one more time.
Lily, LILYNCO.
.net. Okay. And we can find that, like, if we go to Untethered Ministries.
Yes.
As a whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, LisaMichelle.org.
Lisa Michelle. Okay. So if we go to Lisa Michaud as well, we'll be able to find that.
You'll be able to find Untethered Ministries and Lily and Company.
Okay. And Unlikely Warrior. We got
Yes.
a ton. We got a ton that we can find there. We got it all. One-stop shop. I love that. One-stop shop. So one of the things, with our listeners and all the questions and requests that I get of how can I help, right?
Yeah.
How can I help? And one of the things that I love to talk about is obviously burnout and how we take care of our mentors and how we take care of our advocates, because we want them here for the long haul by their choice, right? Not just for a one and done. I'll take you for a one and done event, but would love for you to join the army, right? So what do you all do to prevent that burnout and to also, I guess love on your mentors and your staff and everyone who comes and wants to, join the work and the movement that you're doing? Tell us about them, because they're just as important.
Well, yeah. I mean, my team to me is critical, and taking care of them and making sure that I'm constantly checking in with them and knowing where they're at. And like, we just had a team member recently that, I did that with, and had something going on in their personal life. And we decided together, let's take some time off. Let's get you and, this other person into equine therapy. Let's take these steps. So maybe in about 3 months, we can reconsider you coming back to the team, because you realize that, when you have something traumatic happen in your family and then you're still trying to do this work, it's too much.
That's right.
So that we have the capacity to do that with our team, but my team to me is so important, and to take care of them emotionally, spiritually, and physically. That's part of what I do as well. It's not just, the organization and the girls and all of that. It's absolutely my core team. So any conferences that we can go to, any healing modalities, any trainings, teaching them how to cope and making sure they have healthy coping skills as well. Checking in with them after they've met with their mentee, because a lot of times those are heavy, hard appointments, and making sure that they're okay. We have boot camp coming up in a couple weeks, and we have the mentee and the advocate do it. So it's an incredible series for like 6 weeks, but it's great because they're both there at the same time. And we start out with, what do we want to let go from last year? What didn't work for us? And we write it all down. So, I mean, not only is the advocate, but the mentee is doing their own personal inventory. And then we walk through the process of healing during that 6 weeks. And it's just beautiful, because it's not just the mentee that's getting mentored to and getting fed as well. And so it is a constant. It's a constant. My entire life has been like this, for me personally as well. So I have my own inner circle. I have beautiful mentors that are mentoring me, that are holding me accountable, that are checking in with me constantly. And if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't be able to take care of my team.
Right.
And then my team as well is always working with the girls. So it's this constant cycle of just making sure and checking in with each other, and being really flexible as far as, do we need to take some time off? Do we need to take a step back?
Yeah.
What can we do to help during that process of healing?
Oh. And that's why I asked, because I I know some of the things that you do. And, with others who, we do have a lot of people that listen that are from a smaller nonprofit, or they're getting it off the ground. And this is one of the things I explain to them all the time. And when I come talk to boards, is you have to take care of your people when they're dealing with this kind of trauma. It may trigger something in their own that they didn't even know they had, as well as if, let's just say, they have none that is severe enough for them to trigger, it's still going to affect them. And what are we doing for them? Because they're just as important as the survivors and the individuals that we're trying to help get out of that life. And I feel it's mission critical, because if you lose your staff, if you lose your team, it's detrimental. The trust has been built with that group.
Right.
what are you going to do? Right.
Yeah.
And also you in your ministry, in your programs, you are practicing what you preach. And
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
I cannot thank you enough for it, because it has to be that bold and it has to be out there that you are not just giving, trauma informed resources or practices towards these individuals, but also to your team, because it's there.
And I can even take that a step further too. So I myself make sure that like I said, I have the accountability in the team and the mentoring as well. But I've been involved in a program I got a scholarship as a survivor to go through an equine program for a year. Okay. It's a pilot program for survivors. So I'm in it right now, and I get to go out and do my own equine therapy with me and the horse and the therapist. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's a never ending process of healing from this. And especially if you're in the work, like you said, triggers are going to come up. Things are going to come up. I feel like I'm constantly peeling away the layers of healing in my life. And you just don't know what's going to hit you and when. So I love the fact that I have an organization that reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like to offer you a scholarship for 1 year. I don't have to pay for counseling from a professional, and that I get to be with horses, which is my absolute love of my life. And that I get to work and focus on me and take care of me. And having programs like that out there for survivors and reaching out to the survivors and survivor-led CEOs is critical to helping us sustain and be sustainable in this work and not burning out with running our organizations as well. So I'm just so thankful for people like that, and so thankful for organizations like that. When I can say their name, I'm not sure I have the permission yet to say it because it's a pilot program. Sure. And I can even refer them over to you so they can talk more about what their program is. It's beautiful.
It is. And thank you for that. And thank you for sharing that with us, because yes, equine therapy, I can't talk about it enough and tell people, like, please get equine therapy with your organization. And like I said, it's not just human trafficking victims. It's not just sexual assault. I mean, my husband's a veteran. We have family members that are combat veterans, and their PTSD as well. And the equine therapy, oh my gosh, what it does. It's
incredible.
Yeah. Small children with autism, like, it's just all over for mental, emotional, and spiritual health and growth. I don't know how they don't do this in public schools.
I know, right?
Altogether. Yeah. It should totally be there. Just imagine the world we'd actually have if we had those kinds of things in, like, school systems and the accessibility of it. And I've trained with a few horses myself, specifically training them for therapy, and just being on that side of it with this, 900-pound horse of just muscle, right? And remember, I'm like 4'9.5", so it's very entertaining. Just the optics. But to even be on that side, it's an amazing experience, and I'm so glad that you're able to experience that, as well as your team. And, and your survivors. So can you give us just, we always give our audience an action item. The first one I'd like for you to give is just, if they want to, from your perspective, if they want to fight the good fight and prevent human trafficking or to eradicate it, what's one small action item you can give them? And then the second one is how they can support Untethered Ministries as a whole, or Lisa Michelle, or however you want to word that. So 2 action items, one general, and then one for you guys specifically.
Yeah. I think that just knowing the signs of what trafficking is your basic 101. So know what those signs are. Google it. Find an organization that can train you. If they can come in and train your staff, if they can train your business or your nonprofit, knowing those signs are critical, and then looking for it in your community. So I live in a very small town in Texas. And if I didn't know the signs, then I wouldn't have been able to identify in my idyllic, incredible small town of less than 10,000 people, then nobody would ever think trafficking was happening. I would not have been able to identify many different situations that are going on, not only in businesses, but in churches and on the streets as well. I've been able to help law enforcement with that because I see it everywhere I go now that I know the signs. So knowing the signs and reporting it to local authorities, local organizations, and to the National Human Trafficking Hotline, that's 888-373-7888. So you can call them and report it, or a local organization. If you're in San Antonio, you can call us at 210-517-8256. So that's important. And then to be able to support Untethered Ministries, you can go to untetheredministries.org, find out more about us. You can become a financial partner for just $25 a month. Makes a difference in one girl's life. You can give as much as you want, though. I mean, it doesn't have to be 25. We have businesses and churches that partner with us. That starts at $100 a month. And of course, it can be whatever your budget is as well. And we need those financial partners. Financial partners are the lifeblood of what we're doing right now. We're looking for other ways to partner with businesses and organizations as well. So reach out to us if you've heard this podcast and you'd like to know more about the work we're doing. We'd love to share with you.
Oh, thank you for that. And do y'all have a fundraiser coming up or anything along that, or one that's going on?
We're a spring one. If you have any ideas, let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
We're looking for somebody that can actually do the fundraiser for us.
Okay.
So where we'd be the recipient, but they actually plan out the whole thing. We got a small team and boots on the ground, and it would be amazing to start getting other people helping fundraise for us.
Yeah. Okay. We definitely will put our little tentacles about that for sure. And Lisa, I can't wait to have you already back on. I already have all these things of what we're going to talk about on the next one. Cause legislation for sure is going to come around. And I think it's so important for the public to understand how they can partake in that piece, even in their own state, in their own city, in their own town. Because it's important. The public is the eyes, they are the eyes and ears of the community.
That's right.
And so without them, we cannot fight this fight. We will still just be not even scratching the surface because we're outnumbered. And so it is so important. And the work that you've been doing with legislation and Senator Cornyn and, other in your own speaking, I think it's so important for our public to hear, because just like the title of your book, Unlikely Warrior, never thought you'd be the woman that you are today with your past and what you experienced. You are speaking to our listeners right now who feel, I'm not a social worker. I don't have experience. I'm not a survivor. I'm not a victim. I'm not in law enforcement. I don't know this jargon. They're thinking that they cannot do anything in this fight. And you and I know that can't be further from the truth. And they need to hear how they can participate and how they are an unlikely warrior and how they can team up with an organization like yours and how they can maybe speak life into, a survivor that they never thought they'd had the words to articulate before, but they made a connection, right? We need to bring that humanity back. And I just feel that you and we could just talk about so many things that would help our public. It would totally help our community really join the fight. And then we're raising an army that's unbeatable. And that is our mission here at the Inhumane podcast. So I can't wait to have you back on. So everyone, please go to lisamichelle.com. .org. Thank you for the correction. .org, lisamichelle.org. Correction. Can we edit that part out? lisamichelle.org. And see all that they're doing. Reach out to her. They are a great team. They wouldn't be on this show if I haven't invested my own time and money and resources in people, if I didn't believe in the work. And like I said, this is a true group because they walk the walk. And I thank you for the work that you've done. And we can't wait to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for all your support too. It means the world to me.
Anytime. You call me up and we're here again.
Thanks for listening. You can find more episodes and all of our other Hot Pie Media originals baked fresh daily at our home online at hotpiemedia.com, the Hot Pie Media YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts.